And weight placement, I can't tell you how important. It's why the dancer question came up, right? So we're problem here, got a problem all the way up from there. So we got to fix that first. The neutrality at joints as we come up, the pelvic floor with the diaphragm, the pelvic tilt, pelvic stabilization, the moving up and the thoracic stabilization, the scapula, and then the head neutrality. We got a problem if we're stuck here. And what does technology do to us right now? Everybody's in this position, right? So then they leave work and they come to see us, and we expect them not to be like this. Well, they've been there all day. So it's our job right now to teach them core engagement so they're here, right? The problem is a lot of people don't know what it is. You guys are all over it now. So everything we do from here on in today, my expectation is that we're going to be in the weight placement, knees, stabilization, rib stabilization, boom, boom, go. Don't push me around. We can do this. I had another story. I guess 3.5 years ago, I was dropping my daughter off to dance, and I was driving home, and there was a tractor trailer filling up a gas, so I couldn't see oncoming traffic. There shouldn't be an oncoming traffic. They were stopped. I was in green light. They were on red, but I couldn't see the cars. And all of a sudden, I heard this honking, honking, honking. It was the people stopped. They were trying to get my attention to a lady who was about to run straight through the intersection, even though she was on a red, had been on a red for ages. And she sailed through, and I had about a millisecond to see her as I was going through, thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do?
Where's your core?
I engaged my core. My car spun around 3 times and blew the wheel off my SUV. But I got out, even though I had the brutal spine history, as you know, got out, no problem. Boom. It was a reaction to engage it because I'm so conditioned. Are all of us conditioned to engage it subconsciously? The only way we do that is to train our bodies. And it does become that way. And so it was funny, I chuckled to myself, after I cried, of course. But I got out of that one. Because everybody else was like, oh my gosh, Tracy's just not okay. I'm like, darn it, this is fantastic. So why do we train this? Why? I was talking to somebody today who was saying they want really interested in getting into fitness as soon as they retire. And I said, if you don't do it now, then you won't be able to do it when you retire because your body will be breaking down and it'll be too hard to turn the clock back by the time you get there, so you need to do it now. Right? And core is the basis of everything that we do. Is that making sense, guys, now? Yeah. It's kind of cool, eh? All right, so this is just a diagram. Lynn before her accident, didn't get a chance to post PowerPoint notes for you guys. She did have her handout, but I've got a list here. Leave me your email and stuff. I will make sure you get slides with all of these diagrams. Happy to do it because I added some extra things in that you guys can see. I just find this diagram really helpful. I use it in a lot of my different talks, just because you can see what's going on with the diaphragm. So there's just the reminder for the breathing. So lastly, loaded and unsupported flexion. So deadlifts, pitching squats. So deadlifts, as I say, I love them because if they can do this properly, we're way ahead of the game. But think about a pitcher. If we're down here, how hard? Everybody come into this position right now. Are they slightly rotated? Are they on a straight angle? No. How many people have played baseball? It's not my main sport, but anybody? Anybody pitch? Anybody catcher? Anything like that? So we're down here. Let's go down in this position right now. Let's now turn slightly sideways here. And then let's get one arm moving. How stable do you feel? Dangerous, right? So we might do exercises like that. But then, in that position, do we have to do this? You can't stabilize very well when you're down. So an exercise of that kind is really contraindicated for somebody who can't core stabilize properly. Very contraindicated, right? But teaching them this part first, as long as I can do it, is good. What if you're seeing this? Right? Which is so much the case, right? They'll go like this and like this as they come down. So have a look, shorten the range of motion. If instead of being down here, you might be here. And now they can control it a lot more, right? So just play with that. What about excessive lateral flexion? This is a big one. We're going to do this today, right? What happens if I go too far? Think about me with my spine. What do you think? Think of the vertebrae.
Change something?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if somebody has a pre-existing injury in their spine, disc, any kind of impingement, if we come too far here, take that jelly donut in between, and you swish the jelly out, and now we got a problem. Because remember, all the nerves are running there, right? It's going to impinge something. So taking a loaded, big range of motion lateral flexion is dangerous. Controlled, this is probably fine, because what's happening is it's more within the shoulder girdle here, this movement, right? Rather than being big and then going down deep into the spine and causing potential problems down here. So controlling range of motion. This is a dangerous movement. I wouldn't do this with somebody with a back injury, especially a lumbar back injury. And so that's another precaution, and that's why we wanted that particular one in there. And the same thing goes with rotation. What if we are not, I like to say core coordinated action? So if we do a rotation, and this stays locked, boom, right? Fixed. So this section of my spine is going to take a lot more stress. But if I follow through, right now it's core coordinated, it's far more powerful. I'm allowing my pelvis, my pelvic girdle that works in my core unit to work together. So I've got way more power in this direction than segmental. Does it make sense? So segmental, especially if it's loaded, can be very dangerous. And that's the point she wanted to get across on that one. The rule of thumb, and can you tell me why? Flexion, extension, 1 to 2. I'll say it differently. Anterior, posterior, 1 to 2. Why would I say that? Everybody up for a second, and we'll just figure it out. Because it's really based on gravity, right? So if we're standing right now, and let's say gravity is grabbing, we're a tiny bit kyphotic, right? Gravity is grabbing on right now, and it's pulling you forward, right? Your calves, your plantar muscles, right? They're plantar flexing right here to try to stop you from falling forward, right? So that posterior chain right now is loaded, loaded, loaded. Loaded all the time. So we've got to work on unloading that and flexing it. Now this side is working against gravity, right? Too. So it's picking up, putting down. We're functionally here all the day, right? And then we're also trying to hold up here. So what that balance has to be is we have to work on the back. We have to work the posterior stuff a little bit more. Work the extension stuff a little bit more, because we've been fighting this way the entire time. So people are used to working in here and not as we're used to doing here. How many people do we see that they really like to do more bench press than back? Of course they do. They can see it, and it's easier because you're stronger, because you do more in the front than you do in the back, right? So that's the key message with that, is we want to sort of double up where they're working the posterior to what we do in the anterior aspect. Does that make sense? I just want to switch it so you can understand it. But functionally, way more loaded anterior, so we got to get it. Even though posterior is holding on, it's not conditioned for range of motion.
I just wanted to ask you a quick question about
Please.
chest press, if that's okay.
About what?
Chest press, because I
Yeah.
see so many different things. Like if you're on a flat bench, some people say as you press away, you should like press your spine into the bench to get power off that. Others you see go into this position where just their shoulders are on there in this big anterior.
Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. Can you hear her question? So
and you could run a train under like a bridge. So what
you
do you
totally could.
So
You totally could. So what do? Neutrality. Neutrality. Your spine is most powerful in that position, especially under extreme load, if you're in a neutral position. And shifting makes you vulnerable, and that is how people really hurt their lower back, or they really blow their shoulder. And so your fight to be in neutrality is what it's about. When I teach bench press, especially with people who are just starting, who have a previous shoulder injury or back injury, I usually have their feet slightly elevated so that they aren't coming into this extended position. And then I really start to work on their rib stabilization, thoracic stabilization through here, and they become more powerful. The more units you have engaged, the more load you can lift, right? So if you're arching your back like that, that means you've all of a sudden shut these guys in. These guys are no longer key players. They need to be. They're protecting you, they're stabilized, they're bracing for the load you're about to push. So stabilize right out, stay in neutrality as much as you can, fire all of the muscles you can to push that load. Don't cheat, right? So that's in essence what we call a cheat. But those cheats involve big risk for injury. And I think if you do those too much, you limit the load, your potential load that you could push in the end, if that makes sense. Very good questions, guys.
I took a powerlifting course and they talked about an energy leak, and so
Yeah.
it was how
Yeah.
like losing your pelvic
Yes.
position. So
Yeah, oh, that's a
to
whole
me
other
is
point.
kind
That's
of
very
like-
good, yeah.
It's like if you get that neutral strength,
Yep.
your potential.
Your potential escalates, like it's huge.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And okay, we're gonna come back to the end because that's a whole other very interesting area, and it's very, very true. So with neutral power for a
Yeah.
huge load, you are the strongest if you can maintain that
I've
neutral
ever watched
position.
those power lifters that were
Yep.
trying to lift 600 pounds. They all they super braced. There
They
was a
do,
point where
they-
they blew a artery, but they were like, that was what they they always passed
Yeah.
out, but that's what they did. They
No, absolutely
braced
true.
to lift.
Absolutely true. Did you guys get that
Oh,
on the
yeah.
back? That was
Yeah.
very good. We're gonna
Yeah.
come back to that in a minute. Right now, I gotta get cranky because we got lots of exercises to do, don't we? But hopefully all that makes sense. So for class design, you've got to think about where they've come from. Have they all been in a desk job? Are they all really tight? Do you need to open them up? Do they not understand what main core stability is? It's probably worth your while to take time to teach it, and then they're going to get farther. And when they learn this thing and they don't get injured and they feel more powerful, all of their exercises improve. They'll be your client forever. They will never ever leave you because you have taught them stuff. Educating is one of the biggest things we do. It's not just about the workout, it's about what we teach them and how we change them. I believe that, but I'm gonna leave it to you to go out there and see what they think. Sometimes people get bored because they just want to work out, but if you explain to them, they will be better and they will be injured less. Win, win, win. Let's get going on this, guys. So we've got a warm-up set up for us. So we're gonna get everybody grab a sip of water, get your band, get your